All right, welcome back for another episode of Two Plane Sports. This is going to be focusing more on recruiting and recent commits, transfers, and just various other things happening around the Sooners. First of all, before we get into it, just want to say we really appreciate all the support, all the comments, all the likes, and all the input that you guys have been giving to us. If you hadn't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button and the notification bell. Only like 13% of you subscribe. So a lot of you are watching, but just hit that subscribe button. It's free. It helps us out a whole lot. And make sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Two Plane Sports. We've been getting some follows and we really appreciate it, but that definitely needs to grow, especially with all the information and all these kids committing and signing coming up. We'll keep you in the loop. So today we're going to cover Jayden Gibson, obviously going to commit, and then Nick Evers just committed. Kobe McKenzie just recently flipped to Texas today. Spencer Rattler and Stogner going to South Carolina, and then McClellan and Zach Evans, Javante Barnes. Just something real quick on those two. So the first one, obviously, we'll just go with Nick Evers. Nick Evers is, we just released a video yesterday about him. He's the 6'3", 190-pound quarterback out of Flower Mound, 4-star quarterback in 2022. He was a Gator commit and now is obviously a Sooner commit. Brandon, do you want to lead us off with what you think about him?
Yeah, no, it's totally fine because last time I was on the show with you guys, we were talking about it, and I mentioned that I liked the way that I thought it worked is Lincoln Riley recruited every other year. So like Caleb Williams being class of 21, we don't look again until 23 with the big Malachi Nelson commitment, things like that. Someone in the comments said that I was totally wrong. We recruit quarterbacks every year, whatever. Still, I don't know how true that is, but Nick Evers at the end of the day he's a good prospect to have. He's a 4-star quarterback, very dual threat. He's a big time call. He's a big time player. I think he's gonna have a good college football career, especially in a Jeff Lebby offense. Plays get dialed up for him, which they will be, of course. His dual threat ability is going to be good for us. I'm still my biggest takeaway is I just keep Caleb Williams. That's still my biggest concern of all time. I don't want Caleb Williams to look at this in the wrong way.
Yeah, I don't think he will. I think he's pretty mature about it, and he's got to understand that the school's got to protect himself. Jose, what do you think?
Yeah, as Brum said, if you watch the last video, we talked a little bit more in depth about him, but the biggest thing I mentioned is this is going to kind of set a different way of recruiting for Oklahoma, and the quarterbacks won't be sticking around as long, or at least starting for as long, because Caleb at this point will be starting if he sticks around for 3 years. Previously, we had guys for 2 years or 1 year, depending on time frame. Now it's going to be a little bit more consistent turnover. As long as the guys stay on track, we'll see them for 2 years. They'll leave for the draft, and then the next class will come in 2 years, and it'll be a little bit. The offense should be more steady. They should really never take a step back. If anything, just with each quarterback, just a little bit to their skill set, and keep moving forward, keep improving the offense. Who knows what the offensive coordinator position is going to look like in 5 to 6 years, because I know there's some people expect Lebby to at some point move on to a head coaching role, but Joe Finley would then take his spot. They're very close. I guess they have a very good relationship and view off the offense very similarly. So that's if that is true, and hopefully that he can keep John Finley can keep the momentum going that Lebby's going to set up here in the next few years.
Yeah, it's the Sooners are going to be in great hands. It's great to see that Joe Lebby getting hired. It's not just us respecting Joe Lebby and talking him up. Kids are agreeing with it. Obviously, the quarterback committee within a week of a scholarship offer that has to say something. If you want more an in-depth discussion on him, check out our previous video. Jose and I really dove into that one. And just something real quick. Jayden Gibson, he's a 4-star wide receiver out of Winter Garden, Florida, I believe. Yeah, Winter Garden, Florida. 6'5", huge, lanky kid. He's set to announce tonight. We're recording the previous night, but of this release, it's tonight, and it's definitely leaning towards the Sooners. Jose and I also really talked about him quite a bit in the last video, but Brandon, do you want to give your opinion on him and anything that you want to add to that?
Yeah, I think he's obviously, you mentioned the size. That 6'5" frame is obviously pretty good. I think him and Nick Evers have a pretty close relationship just based on the timing of all of this. The fact that Nick Evers, going back to him, decommitted from Florida within 2 days, was taking an official visit to Norman, obviously now committed. I 100% expect tonight to see Gibson commit to OU. And to be honest with you, I would be shocked if he didn't.
Yeah. I mean, and think about it. If he does end up committing, he's 6'5". Nick Anderson is like 6'3", 6'4". That's two big time receivers, at least big frames that the Sooners are going to add in this class. And depending on if they get a transfer or not, which, and Theo Weiss, it seems like he might end up staying. The longer he hasn't announced, the more and more I'm starting to feel comfortable. And
it all comes down to 13. I mean, based off we all saw Caleb's Instagram post the other day that was, kind of left us wondering, although it was a pretty good post at the same time, just because of the comments and stuff. If Caleb Williams sticks it out long term, I think Theo Weiss might be waiting to see, to get an official post bowl game. Caleb Williams, I'm sticking it out. I'm not going anywhere. Then I think Theo Weiss will end up making the decision to come back.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably going to play a big factor in his role, and I wouldn't blame him as a wide receiver. You want to play with a quarterback that you're comfortable with, and so just something quick on him. We'll definitely be following our Twitter because we'll be, tweeting as soon as he commits, and hopefully it's going to be the Sooners. Everything's pointing towards Oklahoma on this one. Another great bit of news that the Sooners got today, and something I think we all expected, was Kobe McKenzie, or at least maybe we weren't expecting, but we were really hoping it would happen. Committed to the Sooners for 2 years. Lincoln Riley left, ended up decommitting, and then Brent Venables went full court press on him and, convinced him to decommit from Texas and commit to Oklahoma, and he did that this morning. He's 6'2", 245-pound linebacker from Lubbock.
Who's he bringing with him?
Huh?
Who's he bringing with him? We all saw.
Yeah, I was about to bring that up. He said, I'm not the only one, and he's bringing something with him. I have no idea, but the first person I think of is Derek Moore. What do you guys think, Jose?
I have a glimmer of hope that it's Dindy because they're both in Texas, so they might have more communication than Moore. And A&M just lost their defensive coordinator. It doesn't seem like communication with Moore has really been there with this coaching staff, at least openly. There doesn't seem to have, that the open lines of communication. But I mean, who knows? Maybe he's talking about Caleb. Maybe he knows Caleb's going to stick around, and he's just saying, "I'm not the only one that's going to for sure come back to OU." But I don't know. It'll be fun to see.
I was gonna go I kind of like agree with you, because he's a defensive player, he's a four-star linebacker. You immediately think defense. You think Derek Moore, Chris McClellan, maybe you can get him to flip. Dindy, I hope to God you're right, host. That I think would be the best news we can get. But at this point, I'm kind of chalking that one up as we're not gonna see that. But I mean, he could be talking about anybody at the end of the day, because I mean, they're all at the position doesn't really matter. Offense or defense. I mean, they're all kids. They all talk to each other, probably, I imagine. It could be like Demetrius Hunter, who will also be committed, but put us in his top 3, and he's announcing soon. There's a bunch of different options. I hope it's a defensive player. Even if it's not Dindy, give me Derek Moore back. You know what I mean? Just hopefully it's a defensive player he's talking about.
Yeah, I mean, it would make sense why he would be, I'm not the only one and whatnot, and he's on the defensive side of the ball. If they could get Dindy or more, that would be huge, just to add that depth. And with the rumors floating around that Todd Bates is still going to be the defensive line coach, that's going to be, that's got to be attractive to Dindy and more potentially. And obviously Chavis is there as well. What are you going to say, host?
A guy that Brandon mentioned that I didn't think of was Demetrius Hunter Pancake. He was also committed for a very long time before decommitting once Lincoln left. So I would guess they probably talked a lot in different recruiting events and, probably Twitter talking about OU stuff, but
he's another guy specifically that I feel pretty confident about. I want to say recommitting. Is that what it would be? Just because I feel like whenever the whole debacle went down with TBOW and everybody decommitted, a bunch of them, obviously a wave of them. Demetrius Hunter specifically, I think he's probably waiting to see okay, what's Bill Bedenbaugh going to do? And now that he knows Bedenbaugh is officially sticking to Oklahoma, I think he's another guy that I'm pretty confident in the Sooners' chance of getting that guy to come back.
Yeah, and it might be a little bit shocking because things that I've been reading about, it seems like the Sooners have kind of stepped back with recruiting Hunter, but maybe something has happened in the last 24 hours. I mean, everything's crazy. And in our last video, I brought up that maybe they weren't talking to Pancake quite as much because they were starting to talk to Neto Zumulu, or how you say his name, the big guy out of Allen, Texas, great interior offensive lineman. But I say the more the better, the more big guys.
Sports.
Yeah, you can never complain about that. But something we're definitely going to be watching. We might not see on the 15th. We might have to wait until in February. So some more recent news that came out this afternoon. It isn't exactly someone going to Oklahoma, but obviously former Sooners, Spencer Rattler and Austin Stogner both announced that they're going to play for Beamer out at South Carolina, the Gamecocks. Other than it's a great couple pickups for, Beamer and the Gamecocks, it's going to help them out quite a bit. I wish him the best, and I don't blame him for, especially Rattler for leaving, and Stogner. I mean, it just didn't seem like the fits were great, and it didn't help that they had a coach that was 1 foot out the door. But I wish him the best, and Beamer's a great coach. Brandon, what would you like to say about him? If anything?
Yeah. If anything, I absolutely agree with everything you said. To be honest with you, when I saw it on Twitter tonight, I was kind of relieved. Just that we don't have to hate them. We can fully support them still. Honestly, legitimately. I mean, if they went to if Spencer Rattler were to go to Southern Cal, that would hurt, because then I would never be able to like Spencer Rattler again in my life. So yeah, I'm very happy with them going to South Carolina. Correct me if I'm wrong here, but I want to say that these two portal guys, that's where he got them from. That this has to be the two biggest recruits of his South Carolina tenure.
Probably so. I mean, I would imagine. I mean, Spencer Rattler was a former number 1 quarterback, so I don't think it gets much bigger than that. And that's a big score for a school like South Carolina.
It definitely puts them in position to attract talent in the future. Now you can stabilize your offense, probably put someone that's very, very much familiar with the schemes he wants to play. Because if I remember correctly, Beamer kind of played a role in a lot of offensive position groups. He wasn't really set to one group. He coordinated special teams, but he also helped with H-backs and a little bit with quarterbacks, if I remember correctly, and tight ends. So he definitely created a relationship that's obviously now paying off for him. And South Carolina, I mean, I don't think they're going to be much like night and day. They definitely got better with these two pickups. We'll see what it's going to be like. Their in-state rivals are probably not very happy now with Lincoln Riley, even more so now because two guys that are coming from his ex-program are now playing at their rival school. Oklahoma took their defensive coordinator because Lincoln left. I mean, I wouldn't blame Clemson fans for having a little bitterness towards Lincoln at this point, but it is what it is.
Join the club.
I'm happy for them. I really didn't care where they went. I knew that Spencer didn't seem to really want to be a Trojan. He was between UCLA and Oregon at first, I think was what was reported, and he was heavy lean towards UCLA. So Beamer must have really been
Oregon or UCLA.
Well, Beamer at this point, Chip Kelly, there's some instability there. Well, there was, the last few days because Chip Kelly kept being to be rumored to Oregon, and then Oregon lost their coach. So if Mario Cristobal were still there, maybe they would have had a better chance at him. But now they have Lanning. South Carolina just seems to make sense because of the relationship they have, and then Stogner has a great relationship with Beamer. It seems like so. They'll do good things there.
from a relationship standpoint, it makes total sense. And like I said like a second ago, like I'm totally happy now that we can fully support them on Saturdays and want them to win, want them to do well. Because at the end of the day, I really did like Spencer Rattler a whole lot. On this show, if you go back, all of our listeners, if you go back, we were the biggest Spencer Rattler supporters or defenders or whatever you want to say. The whole time everything was happening, we stuck up for that guy every single time on this show. And so I mean I love that guy. I want to be able to support him. And now obviously at South Carolina I can. I don't have to hate him. I don't have to be mad at him. Same with Stogner. Like I'm excited for them to be good or good. Hose, like you said, it's not going to be like a. You said night and day. I think it will be night and day. But only thinking maybe like 8-4 now or 9-3 maybe. They're not going to win a national championship just because of this, but I mean, this is South Carolina. I believe before Beamer got there was they struggled for I mean they struggled to get bowl eligible, and I mean he took them there his first year as a head coach. There's only reason to think they're going to get better, but yeah, I mean they're even with Rattler and Stogner, they're not a team that we're going to look at like they might win. They're not winning at all next year.
Yeah, I mean, and with Beamer, he in his first year, South Carolina went 6-6, so that's not bad, and they're in a bowl game. I do agree with you, Brandon. I do think this is probably an 8-4, 9-3. If they're really, they might get a few things go their way, 10-2, but I mean, they're probably not going to win a national championship, but they're definitely going to be better. And this is going to be able to let Beamer build onto this program. So I wish them all the best. Something we're definitely going to be watching. Do you guys have any final thoughts before we move on? No. Well, I'm just glad that I agree with you, Brandon. I'm glad he's not, going to USC or, any of them going to Texas or anything like that. So next guy we're going to talk about is someone that has been a wild roller coaster. So you've got Chris McClellan, which, gosh, I mean, we've talked about him for the last 6 months. And if you hadn't heard about him, he's 6'3", 295-pound defensive lineman from Owasso High School in Owasso, Oklahoma, number 100 overall and number 17 defensive lineman. Extremely versatile, can rush the passer. I mean, he's nearly 300 pounds, and he can be probably a day one starter if the Sooners really needed him to be. This has been a wild roller coaster as far as he was really following or really liking the Buckeyes last summer, didn't commit, but the Ohio State was expecting him to. Seemed like they both moved on and went their different, separate ways. And then he visited Florida, and Florida, he liked Florida for a while, and then he started visiting Oklahoma and, trending towards the Sooners. And then he ended up never committing to either one. Then he visited Florida and then finally committed to Florida, even after Dan Mullen getting fired. It seems like there's some momentum now that Lincoln Riley's gone, and then they've got Brent Venables and the new staff in there, and it seems like he's got some renewed interest, and it seems like the Sooners have a decent shot. Jose, what do you think about him?
I don't think this guy's going to come back to Oklahoma. To be completely honest with everyone watching, we've tried to do this about 3 different times talking about McClellan, and every time it's a roller coaster with this dude. He really loves Oklahoma, then he really hates Oklahoma. And there's people that we're close to that,
society.
They kind of run in his friend group, and they've talked to him, and he really hated OU before he made his full commitment to Florida. But now I guess he's not confident in Florida. Like, I don't know. Like you said, he's very talented. He's got the physical attributes to be successful in college. And do I hope he becomes a Sooner? Yes. Do I think he's going to be a Sooner? Definitely not. I think he's going to stick to Florida. And if anything, at some point, he might regret his decision of going to Florida and then enter the portal. But then he has to hope that Venables kind of changes his mind on the portal. So if he needs to make a decision now if he wants to be a Sooner. And if he doesn't want to be a Sooner, then he's just going to have to stick it out at Florida, and he'll be successful there, hopefully. But I don't know. This dude kind of just he confuses me more than any recruit we've covered so far.
I think if you could draw up, like if we could think of like a perfect response to the question you just asked, I think Jose nailed it, like just on the head. That was beautiful, Jose. I was going to say the same thing. I absolutely would love for this kid to be a Sooner because he is, from a talent standpoint, that good. He's a lot of fun to watch. He could be that guy. but I don't see it. I think he's going to stick it out at Florida, as Jose said. And Jose mentioned some kids we're close to that we know who run in the circles. There's a kid that we run with who is my youngest brother's best friend, who's a very hit and miss source, if we know what we're talking about. But he does run with Chris McClellan's circle, and he hangs out with Chris McClellan and tells us all the time that Chris McClellan either loves Oklahoma or hates Oklahoma. He goes back and forth, like Jose said. And at the end of the day, he's gonna stick it out of Florida. Although I'd love to see him come to Oklahoma.
Yeah, it's one of those deals that Oklahoma's gotten burned so many times in the last 2 or 3 years that that it's just like, we can't get our hopes up. Just don't get our hopes up, and you can't be upset at the end. If he picks Oklahoma, awesome.
It's a celebration because it's unexpected to our viewer.
Yeah.
It's unexpected. No one's seen it. Yeah.
I mean, you go way back in some of our videos. At one point, I was extremely confident, but after hearing what he had to say about Oklahoma and all this other, I think it's all smoke and mirrors. I just don't know what. I could see him not even signing on the 15th and be like, well, I'm not sure, and just keep dragging it out. Or I don't know. This is someone that we're going to be definitely following.
He's wishy-washy. Yeah, for sure. But at the end of the day, I think if we all had a bet on it, I think he sticks out of Florida.
Sorry, I would like to say that I think all of us here understand it's not an easy decision that these guys have to make, especially in such a short amount of time. Like, if you guys watch the Oklahoma breakdown, I think Teddy mentioned like the issue, and I know Joel Klatt mentioned it. The issue in college football right now is such a quick turnaround for coaches and high school players. High school players finish their season maybe a week ago, and then a week or two later have to make the people that want to make it quick, they have to make their decision on what school they're going to if they haven't done it already. But even if they did, they have all these schools still trying to talk to them. And then, we've seen so far this offseason, or not even the offseason, bowl season and championship week, all this coaching turnover because schools need to be in a hurry to get their commitments and for their upcoming recruiting class. Like, I think there's something needs to change overall so that guys like Chris, who maybe need a little bit more time to really feel solid in their decision, aren't rushed to making one if they really just want to, have that established for themselves to enroll either early into in January, or I don't know. They just got to figure this out. The system kind of just puts a lot of stress on 17, 18-year-old kids, and then it puts schools like Oklahoma, Notre Dame in situations where you're doing last-minute coaching searches.
Yeah, and I do agree, because at the end of the day, sometimes you have to commit because there are limited spots, and it might not be there for you in February, even if you want to wait. And you're just thinking, well, I got to sign here. It doesn't really matter at the end of the day. And then they end up there, and it, sometimes it works out and sometimes it doesn't. They end up hating being there and they regret their decision. At least the transfer portal is there now that if they ended up hating their decision. But I do agree there needs to be a little more time. But then again, Chris McClellan probably knows it by this point after his visit, with Venables, what he's going to get. And he has to probably have an idea who his defensive line coach is going to be. And if I'm Chris McClellan and you've got Venables and then potentially Todd Bates, and maybe I know I'm biased, and you've got your friends coming to play for Oklahoma, I don't know why you wouldn't want to be a Sooner. I mean, Venables has a track record, and Todd Bates has a track record of putting guys in the NFL. So, Grinch and them were trying to sell you on that idea. Venables has proof on every given Sunday. So I think at this point, as far as the best case scenario for the Sooners to land Chris McClellan was Lincoln Riley leaving. And so, not saying I want it, that's good, but I think that's where we're at right now. So our final kind of discussion topic is going to be the running back situation. Obviously, the Sooners have, Marcus Major, and assuming that Kennedy Brooks is going to the NFL, and then they've got commit Gavin Sawchuk. And they do have Eric Gray. And and they were pursuing at one point Zach Evans, which Zach Evans was the number one running back in his class a couple years ago or a year or two ago. And he ended up, signing with Georgia, got his letter of intent released after getting in a little bit of trouble and ended up at TCU. And it seemed like there was a lot of momentum for him to visit the Sooners here pretty quick, but it seems like they've pumped the brakes because I think the Sooners feel really good about where they're at with Javonte Barnes. And Javonte Barnes is out in Las Vegas, and DeMarco Murray's been really working on him. He's a 4-star running back and is looking hard between OU and USC now. But I do think that with Zach Evans kind of being told hold on, the Sooners must feel really good about where they're at with Javonte Barnes. Brandon, would you like to say anything about Zach Evans or Barnes?
With Barnes, yeah, I mean it's encouraging to see us kind of, maybe stop recruiting hard as we were with Evans. But at the same time, I don't love seeing that he's visiting USC recently and he's close with USC. It's a little bit concerning for me. I would love to see him land with Oklahoma.
Yeah, Jose, what do you have to end?
And I would love to see every very talented player land at Oklahoma. That's just not the case, But I mean, he's exploring his options. We talked about it before we started recording. He's just doing what he needs to do to feel comfortable in whatever decision he wants to make. Hopefully it is the Sooners. In regards to Evans, though, I think it's more so Venables not wanting to use the portal, and that's just something he picked up with Clemson. Him and Dabo really just have a very big dislike of the transfer portal and how it's affecting college sports and maybe their teams. But I think he's giving Levy a pretty big freedom to do as he wants with his offensive scholarships. If I'm scrolling through all the Twitter timeline that we have and thinking back to from the first day Levy had his job as the OC at OU to today, I'm pretty sure he's offered a ton of scholarships, and some of them are even in the 23 and 24 class, when Venables in his presser said those aren't his focuses because they have very limited tape. He wants to, recruit kids that are closer to actually committing. So 2022, not that he wasn't going to look at 2023, but his priority is current players and 2022 players. But Levy's got free reign on scholarships that he wants to offer on the offensive side. But and that's where Venables is like, all right, you've got free reign to do your recruiting however you want to do it, but I'm pretty steadfast on the transfer portal is just not where we want to go. And that's that. You can do whatever you want. You can go recruit 2027 kids for all I care, but no transfer portal, or very limited at least. It's got to be like the perfect fit personality wise.
Yeah, no, I do agree. And, I really have my, high hopes on Javonte Barnes. Obviously, he's planning to sign early, but we won't know until the All-American game, which I believe is early January, where he'll announce between USC, Oklahoma, and Florida State. But I feel like this is more of a USC Oklahoma deal. But I think the position coach and DeMarco Murray will win out in the end over Lincoln Riley. And maybe I'm being slightly biased, but if I were a player, I would be mostly concerned about who my position coach was. And if you've got that relationship that he's had for the last few years or year or so, I feel like that's got to win out. But, you never know. Crazier things have happened. Do you guys have any final thoughts before we wrap this up?
Just one thing, and it's something we tried out a couple of videos ago. Last video I was in, I think we had what was the word that we used to comment last video? I said if you watch the whole video through, comment whatever
that they made it there. I
think
think that's all it was.
Yeah. Okay. And it was cool for me at least to see those comments of those people who finished the whole video. So I'm gonna try to do the same thing again. So on this video, if you finish it all the way through, comment Spencer Rattler, Spencer, or your favorite Spencer Rattler at OU memory. Since he stuck into the video tonight, I'm a big fan of him. I think on the show we're a big fan of him. So if you saw this whole video through, comment Spencer Rattler, Spencer, or just your favorite Spencer Rattler memory as a Sooner.
Yeah, you heard him. Do it. And, obviously, if you're going to type all that out and you made it this far, you might as well hit that subscribe button as well and like the video. And because
true.
you know they're only like 13% of you currently subscribe, and it really helps us out a whole lot if you guys just hit that button and turn on notifications so you can keep up to date with everything that we post. Make sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at 2Plane Sports. Find us on Spotify, and we'll be posting pretty regularly with all the National Signing Day coming up here in the next couple days. We appreciate it, and we'll catch you next time.